Alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So happy to be here with every one of you today. Marriage is something that is very intricate, and we all seem to think we know something about marriage. As young as 15, I've always wanted to get married. I don't know why. I just felt I was meant to get married. And I'm sure the same thing is going to go with a lot of women here, a lot of ladies here, that the instinct to get married is something that is innate, and we always just sort of feel that we'll feel complete if we get married at a point in time in our lives. At the age of 19 or 20, I guess, I think I told my mom, I think I was in year 3 then, and I told my mom that, well, I do want to get married. I think I found someone I want to get married to. And the simple question she asked me then was, is the person in school? I said, no, he's done with school. She said, perfect. Tell the person that my child too should finish school before she gets married. So it was something like a promise, really. And she told me, see, if you finish your BSc, don't worry, just tell me when you finish, pens down, and um, and then you get married. And true to her words, the day I finished my exams, I reminded her of her promise, and and there we go. And since then, I've been married. I got married at the age of 23, 22, 22-ish, 23. It's a borderline thing, And for me, going into marriage without any prep, it was like starting from zero, just like a lot of young people, would start. Now, in life, we have to first of all know there's no perfection. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in his infinite mercies, when he wanted to create mankind. I'm sure all of you will know the story of the angels and their discussions with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When he told the angels, I'm going to create a vicegerent on earth. And they were so worried and said to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, would you now create people that will cause facade, that will cause corruption, that will commit a lot of sins on earth? How would you create people that, that will not serve you at will? They knew, because Allah put the knowledge in them. So happy initial, even angels knew that we're not perfect. Allah gave us something that is special, that is not given to the angel, and that is free will. And free will means that you decide exactly what you want to do with your life, whether you want to be a Muslim, whether you want to be a Christian, whether you want to be a homosexual, anything you want to be, you can be, so long as, the free will is active. And this is, of course, what Allah is going to base all our judgments on. So yeah, perfection, starting from human beings, we're not perfect. And our imperfections presupposes us to quite a lot of things. Unfortunately, when you're not perfect, what comes to play is that you sort of compensate for you're not being perfect, because all of us, for instance, we want to reach that, state of perfection. And what is perfection? Is a state of flawlessness. I want to look beautiful, for instance. I want to be taller. I want to be slimmer. I want to be fatter. I want to get the best job. I want to get a job, in the best company. I want to have the most gorgeous wife, the most gorgeous husband, and so on and so on. These are things that, out of our imperfection, we just sort of look for. If you do watch TV from time to time, you realize that a lot of people are going under the knife to get, perfect, get the perfect picture, get the perfect, chest, get the perfect pecs, everything they wanted to be perfect. This is trying to compensate for the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not create us in that form. Right? And that is why we're called human, right? Now, the goal of being perfect is something that every person quests. When I was in primary school and secondary school, my parents wanted me to be the first all the time. That is them searching for perfection for me. They wanted me to be perfect, right? When I was growing up, I had quite a lot of pimples on my face. They were so unhappy. They would take me to one doctor or to the other doctor just to get the pimples out of my face because they wanted my face to be flawless. There's nothing like perfection. Right? And we really have to come to that terms that, looking for perfection is almost like looking for, disaster. Now, human beings were never intended to be perfect. And that is part of, that is part of being, nonetheless. but we still seek perfection in every corner of our lives. We seek perfection in our relationship with people, in our relationship with our parents, in our relationship with the friends. We just sort of seek perfection. When we're in a certain organization, we want to be the best, we want to be the boss's pride. We just want to be the best. So why can't we seek for perfection as well in marriage? Why can't we? I mean, it's something we all want. I want to have a perfect marriage, for instance. Is that possible? Is it something I can buy into by learning 2 or 3 things, and that is all? For instance, I go to school, I'm an accountant, and I said, okay, fine, I'm going to just be the best in my trade, and then I'm the best. But human nature predisposes us, to something far greater. Now, Rasulullah said, what makes a man perfect, in quotes, I'm going to use that word, is getting married. Meaning that if you get married, half of your deen, has been, the other half of your deen compiled with the one you have makes you perfect, And Rasulullah said, whoever provides, Allah provides with the righteous wife, Allah has assisted him in half of his deen, meaning that you take care of the other half. So does it mean that if we do have a perfect wife or a perfect husband, does that mean that this is a perfect marriage? Or should I ask, is there anything like a perfect husband or a perfect wife? It's a question. It is going to be very hard because, going back to what I said earlier, there's nothing like perfection. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not create us to be perfect. And if you look at all the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all these names would mean almost nothing if we were perfect. Like the angels, right? If we do not sin, for instance, it will not be a Ghafur or him. If we do not lose our way, it will not be the guide, you know. If we do not, if we're always rich or always satisfied, it will not be Al-Ghani. So many things that we'll have to look at and decide for ourselves, just to know that perfection is something that's elusive. You can catch it a bit, you just like catch it a bit, feel it, and then it just, it just sort of leaves. Now have in mind that the good part of a taqwa and all that it entails, the definition of good can be very, very hazy. Very, very hazy. So being a good wife is subjective. Being a good wife or good husband is something that's completely subjective. I love men that are so and so and so and so. Some people might say, well, I do not like my men to be that way. I want my men to be alpha male, to work hard. I want to stay at home to take care of the kids. We had different people, so the definition of good, could be completely different. Now, in our quest for perfect marriage, we want to ask that question: what is marriage in Islam? And different from any other religion or any other way of life. Unfortunately, a lot of us believe that marriage in Islam is just like marriage, in any other religion. Unfortunately, not. The quest for love and companionship leads, all of us to marriage in Islam. And marriage is a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of his kindness, out of his love for all of us. And in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that among his signs is this: I created for you mates from amongst yourselves, that you may dwell in tranquility with them, and that he has put love and mercy between your hearts. Verily, in that are signs for those who reflect. And this you find in Quran 36, verse 56. Now, being married in Islam is an active process. It is not, I'm married and that is it. It's an active process. From the time you start until you decide you don't want to go on again, or until the time you die. Now, marriage is not an agreement to stay there. It is not an agreement to stay there. Unlike the Catholics, the agreement is to stay there and die there. It's not also an agreement to keep that person constantly happy and satisfied. It is not possible because we're human. Marriage in Islam is a social contract between a man and a woman, not homosexuality, not between a man and a man or a woman and a woman, right? Only between a man and a woman. Now, marriage in Islam also is an investment. Why is it an investment? Because we invest our time, we invest our resources, we invest our emotions, we invest a lot of things in marriage. And at the end of the day, for every investment, we want to reap something, right? You know, with all the emotions we put in, we want to get something back. With all the financial investments we put in, we want to get something back. Everything, you invest in marriage, we also always hope and expect something back. But unlike normal mundane contracts, unfortunately, marriage contracts are rarely ever thoroughly negotiated. Never, especially with Muslims. Now, when we say something is a contract, it means that there's some things inside that contract, that both of you will have to agree to. In Islam, the marriage contract is basically, truly, because of the woman. Because when you go into the marriage itself, the man has the upper hand, to do quite a lot of things. So there's some things that are very sacrosanct to you that you believe that, I can't do without these things, or perhaps I would rather, not have this in my life if I'm married. This is the time for a woman to put this into writing. Then these are things that we want to put forward to let the person know that, look, I'm not being bad if I tell you that this is what I do not like, this is what I want, this is what I do not want. However, all the things in the marriage contract do not have to be agreed, to by the husband. There will be a negotiation, there will be an agreement to throw some away, an agreement to keep some. And in doing this, you sort of know the person you're getting married to and have an idea of, what you're getting yourself into. At this point in time, truly, you could say, well, I don't think I can cope with someone like you. But we hardly ever do that. So we go headlong into marriage, and then we get there, the door is locked. It's shut from behind, and we're looking for the keys. Marriage in Islam is not a sacrament. It is not. It is not that I'm going to be there forever. It is not. There is divorce. And divorce is not something Rasulullah concocted. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it says it's one of the most, one of the laws that he hates the most. So divorce exists in Islam. So this is also part of marriage. And of course, Rasulullah told us that marriage is my precept, my practice, and those who do not follow my practice, they are not of me. It means that celibacy is not part of Islam. You could not just decide one day and say, well, I want to be celibate, except, of course, there are medical reasons for you to be celibate. There are medical reasons. Some people, there's so many medical issues that people have that, could make them celibate. Some people would not be able to mate with their wife, and so on and so on. It would be unfair for them to get married to someone, and then the person gets in and realize that, wow, this person can do jack. So it's very important for us to know that, for almost all the laws of Islam, apart from Shahada, there will be, exceptions, to some of the rules. Now, marriage is not an agreement to stay in there, like I said earlier, or to keep loving the person. You have to work on it. For me to love you, in marriage, there has to be something I'm getting back, and that is why it's an investment. When you invest in loving someone, you're not doing it for free. The investment is just one. I want something back in return. What do I want back in return? I want to be loved. We go into marriage in quest of a lot of things. Some people go into marriage to have children. Some people go into marriage, for so many reasons. But the main thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, is that of love and mercy. Is that of love and mercy. And, mankind naturally we're designed to love, naturally. Starting from when we're infants, we come straight into our parents' hands and they start loving us. That is, I'm talking about normal situation, right? If a child is not loved, psychologically, the child will not grow. I was in shock when I saw the pictures of children in Russia. I think it was so many years back, about 30 or 40 years back. They were not loved. There was war there, I think, at that time. And these children were in the orphanage. They were not carried. The only time they are carried is just to change their diaper. Carry them without fondling. Without fondling. They don't fondle them. They just feed them like this, and then they leave them in their crib. Psychologists discovered that these kids did not grow. They were being fed, they were being cleaned, but they looked gaunt and they were so anxious. They looked so sad, always so sad because, there was no touching. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala designed us to be loved, to be touched, and if this is removed from a child's life, you will have a child that is completely insecure, always anxious and ambivalent. Right. Now, knowing that is an innate thing to long for love, right? It is not also out of place that when we're growing up, we realize that we're drawing towards the opposite sex, right? And we learn a lot of things from our parents, whether or not we like it, the way we're loved. These are things that actually affect us, when we're growing up. Interaction with our parents influence everything that we do. Sometimes you have parents that are always there, they're present parents, they're always there, they give us the love and attention. We have parents that are not always there, but the caregivers are there. These children too they could be fine, so long as the mother has, or the father, or the parents have enough time, earmarked for them. So giving love to our children also predisposes them to seek love and to also want to give love. And we have seen several times in some schools where parents would come and complain about children that have been very, very naughty. Now, psychologists also saw that children that behave very, very naughty in class or in school are seeking two things: attention and they're seeking love. And they do just don't know how to do it. So, I mean, when it comes to love, like I said earlier, children, we start loving and learning how to love from our parents. And it's very, very important for us to know this, because it's for us, I mean, some of us are here with kids, some of us are getting, thinking of getting married. Some of us have gotten married and have left marriage. Some of us are in marriage and we're in troubled waters. So learning to treat your children right and giving enough love, gives them that edge, to be able to interact with other people at the end of the day. And like I said earlier, children, when they go to school and they're very, very naughty, and reports are given to their parents that the children are very naughty. Psychologists, like I said earlier, have come to the conclusion with quite a lot of researches and studies that children that, behave very naughty in school are seeking just two things. They're seeking love and they're seeking attention. And they're trying to overcompensate, because they were not given love at home. If you're not given love at home, what happens is that you go outside without knowing, you don't even know that you're seeking love. You just know that you're behaving in a certain way because you want to be noticed, right? So most people that, sort of want to be noticed all the time, if you dig deep, you realize that they lack some love, or, they just want a bit of attention and they want to be loved. Now, the other way we learn about love is through the social media. The television environment also influence, the way we love, depending on the kind of environment you are. We have some parents that fight all the time. We have parents that are very loving. We have parents that are very cold towards each other. So you see, all this would eventually determine the kind of emotions you're taking into your marriage, right? It's not something that just started, right? It depends on the kind of friends you have, the kind of relationship your parents have, the kind of, that environment is very key when you're going into marriage eventually, because all this baggage, without knowing it, we have packed all the baggage, all of it together, and we're taking it straight into marriage. Now, there's so many things that influence our expectations of love. Like I said, it is innate to love, right? And because we love, then, at a certain age, your hormone starts working. It is just normal. Your hormone would seek the opposite sex. Initially it is strange, and initially you might think you're feeling, God, how am I feeling? You feel like, God, I'm a bad girl. Why am I feeling, such and such feeling for such and such a person? This is part of the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has designed us. Now, there's so many things that now influence our expectations of marriage, right? Because before you go into any marriage, you have certain expectations. What are my expectations? What What do I want my husband, for instance, or my wife to be? Some men will say, well, I want my wife to be a stay-at-home mom. I want her to take care of the kids, and so on and so on. These are expectations based on the thing he has seen in his environment, either falling in line with what he has seen or reacting to it negatively. I said, well, I'm not going to go, by those things. I am definitely going to chart my own path. I don't want my wife to work, because when I was growing up, my mother is always at work. I hardly ever see her. So what I want to get home and actually see my wife. I want my children to get home and actually see their mom. So it depends. And these are, a combination of the things that we go through in our lives. Now, parenting styles, one of the most significant success, of sources of stress in marriages is tied to expectations. And expectations, like I said earlier, they are a combination of the things that we have gathered in our lives. We call them baggage, because without knowing it, we're carrying them. We're carrying them everywhere we go. They become like a compass to seeing, the kind of man, is this the kind of man I want, or is this the kind of person I want? When I was growing up, without knowing it, I was actually picking a spouse that my parents would be pleased with. I was actually picking a spouse that my parents are going to be pleased with. Why? I didn't know. Because I just wanted to please them, right? Fortunately, what I picked was also pleased me, but some people are not that fortunate, right? They pick the right person and so on and so on. So our views and expectations of marriage are shaped by quite a lot of things. I've listed a few of them here. Parenting style of caregivers in the early years. How did your parents love you? How did they show love to you? All these things, like I said earlier, are very, very important into our eventual expectations of marriage. What kind of TV programs do we watch? What kind of social medias do we go into? What pages do we view on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and all these things? They actually, the moment you see something, it is just psychological. The moment you see something, it's that you incline towards it, or you tend to move away from it. What you incline towards becomes, what you want to practice without knowing it. Right. A lot of us want fairy tale weddings. We want destination weddings. And in fact, the new thing that is out there now is that when people want to propose, they make it so lavish. They put it on Instagram. In fact, it is all like the marriage itself for some people. This is born out of what they have been watching on TV, what they have seen on Instagram, and so on and so on. So the social media actually also baits our expectations of what we want out of marriage. Then what kind of books do we read? What kind of books do we read? I remember very well when I was a child, well, not a child, when I was in secondary school, I read a lot of romance. And in my head, it has to be dark and handsome. My husband is tall, dark and handsome, you know. Was that why? Perhaps, these are things that are there that you will not know, that these are the reasons why I'm picking some things, because we bring in most of these things into our head without knowing the implications at the end of the day. Like I said earlier, the kind of TV programs you watch, or you let your children watch, as a matter of fact. In my own days, I used to watch a lot of cartoons and a lot of children's programs, and I believed so much in everything that I watched. I was so super, super stupid, until, of course, reality slaps my face here and there, and I realized that, God, most of these things are not just real. They will tell you, believe hard, and then you get it. And I believed hard, nothing came. So there's so many things our children are also going through now, that it is already shaping a lot of things in their head. It's shaping the kind of person they want. It's shaping the kind of environment they want to live in. It's doing a lot of good or damage, whichever one you might tend towards. Now, the environment we live in also is very, very important. Environment that is the external and internal. Is it stable? Do we have parents that, they are nice to each other, and you can see that? So being nice to other people outside becomes very, easy. Is the environment you're living also stable? Are you living in an environment where, you see people intermixing, people having sex, if you go to areas like Achievable, it is not hard for you to see these things in the night. And then, of course, you know that children are going to go out in the night, either to buy things or to run errands. And they see all these things. It becomes something that shapes their expectation, either positively or negatively. Either they say, God, I don't ever want to live in this kind of environment. Or perhaps they say, God, I really wish I could have a man like this, to also hook up with. Now, social interaction in schools, club, hangouts are also things that, um, um, tilt our expectations of marriage here and there. What kind of marriage did significant people in your life had, or have? For instance, what kind of marriages did you envisage, you're going to have based on the kind of marriage your uncle had, the kind of marriage your aunt had, the kind of marriage your neighbors had, because our neighbors also are very, very important when it comes to our expectations. We have people that have wonderful neighbors, and you have children that will be thinking, God, I really want to be like that when I grow up. Now, our culture versus the popular culture is also something that, goes round and round in our heads. How are we going to manage these two together? Our culture says this, popular culture says this. And popular culture, of course, we know it is just, it is just horrible. Most of the things we see, if we were to perpetrate it, it is going to be, I don't know, how life will be. Our children wants to wear, things that are unsightly, jeans that are torn. These are things that, the popular culture are bringing into play, right? They're now coming back, trying to steal Islamic culture, as a matter of fact, now. Nike is now doing hijab, they're coming in gradually, and then they're trying to not remove completely, because they know that we do not want to remove our hijab, no, but they'll tell you, kindly and gently to reduce the length of the hijab, right? That is popular culture. Do it this way. Yes, you can wear long, they're long dresses to wear, but they're super tight compared to our culture. Now, these are the things that, we get obsessed with. We get obsessed with fairy tale love. We get obsessed with most of these things, and they shape, our expectations of marriage. How about our religion? Religion is one of the very, very important things that shape our expectations of marriage. That is, if you're within the four walls of a religious home. Even then, remember that even if you're within the four walls of a religious home, there are other factors that are going to be fighting, to make this religiosity either hard, for you to imbibe, or easy. Now, if you're from a religious home and you have friends that are also religious, that your neighbors are also religious, you see it is actually easier, for you to bend, towards religiosity, if you're not in tune with popular culture. Because popular culture could also be something that will derail, a religious person from practicing his or her religion, the way he or she is meant to. Now, level of education and experience, I'm not talking about BSc or MSc. No, education is diverse, right? The level of education on this matter, that is what I mean. The level of education on this matter, we have people that are highly educated, but highly abusive as well, right? It is not how many degrees you have that determines your education in marriage. It's the experience and the willingness to give your marriage, the best, that you can. Expectations shape and bend our reality always. All the things I've highlighted here are things that shape our reality. They bend it, they skew it, they make it so, it's unbelievable. The kind of marriages I've cancelled. I've seen quite a lot of things that, that are alarming and that disheartening. So these are expectations. These are some very few expectations, of influences that things that influence our expectations of marriage. Now, when it comes to marriage, a lot of us want fairy tale marriage. And what is what is fairy tale marriage? It is for happily ever after. We know at the back of our minds that this cannot happen. We know. But like I said earlier, we overcompensate because we're always questing. We're always looking for things that, will make us get near perfection, or things that would make us feel that, yes, I think I'm good where I am right now. but then it doesn't ever last. Now, from fairy tale marriages, like I said, it's a new thing now, and a lot of even children, they watch Disney, all the programs on Disney, tend towards ladies looking for men that are what, that are knight in shining armor, that they're going to live for happy ever after. Then they will be the hero, and sorry, the husband will be the hero, they will be the heroine, and so on and so on. And of course, there are also victims. And who are the victims? They are the victims. And who are the villains? The villains will be who? The extended family, because they're not in tune with quite a lot of things with extended families. So of course, most of the time, the extended families are going to be villains. Now, fairy tale marriages are also filled with splendor. And that splendor is not something that everybody can get. It is untrue to say that having a big wedding is wrong. I never said it was wrong. He just advised us, to spend less when we're getting married. However, plus the poor and the rich, everybody wants a marriage that is out of this world. They do not mind borrowing money to get it. Apart from Shrek, right? Brides and groom are always the epitome of beauty and perfection. And that is now why we have a lot of makeup artists. They would turn your face from black to white, your jawline from square to rectangle. They can't do anything. And even if you look at yourself in the mirror, right, you'll be shocked. Is it really me? And then when you get to the place where you're going to meet your husband to do the marriage vows, when he sees you, I'm sure most of them cry, not because you're looking so beautiful. They're saying, God, what happened to the girl I know? Because everything will have changed. And this is what everybody go in quest of. A fairy tale wedding, a fairy tale marriage, which is not real. And then the expectations are so high up there that at the end of the day, when you get into the marriage, what happens? Everything is dashed. I got this from the internet, and I thought it was really very, very important for us to read this, and that is a marriage box. Now, we want all of us to think like we're getting into a marriage now. The marriage is like a box. And then when anytime anybody's getting married, they have, God, I'm going to be happy. Oh, we wish you happiness. We wish you this. They wish you, but you have to work for it. Most people get into marriage believing a myth, right? They believe that marriage is a beautiful box full of things that they longed for: companionship, intimacy, friendship, and so on. The truth is that marriage at the start is an empty box. There's nothing in it. You can put some things, you must put some things before you can take anything out. There's no love in marriage. Love is in people, and people put love in marriage. There's no romance in marriage. You have to infuse it into your marriage. A couple must learn the art and form the habit of giving, of loving, of serving, of praising, of keeping the box full. If you take out more than you put in, the box will be empty. And that is the truth about marriage. The perfection of marriage is not going into it thinking that all these things are there, but knowing that all the things that you hope for, you have to work for and put in the marriage box. There are no such things as perfect marriages, because it is made of two imperfect people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one that is perfect. The goal of a good marriage is to reduce conflict. The goal of any good marriage is to reduce conflict. We must place our complete trust in Allah all the time, in His guidance, and accept and know that, is the best person to trust. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that, but they plan and Allah plans, and Allah is the best of planners. Each time you plan to get married, know that Allah is the one in front and behind, and on top and beneath. So it is very, very important to lay all your plans bare in front of Allah, knowing that, well, we're not perfect. and we're going into something that is not going to be perfect. But we want to see, perfections in the things we do as much as possible. Marriage is a journey, so pack your luggage sensibly. It's always a journey. Our destinations might be different because we're going to use different modes of transportation. My marriage is different from a lot of people's marriage. When I got married, my husband worked on the rig, going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. A lot of people cannot stand that. Some people, this is the life they want. We learn in marriage, and it is a compromise, a sacrifice. It reveals who you are to the other person. However, if both of you have good intentions and you're willing to work jointly at it, a marriage promises to to bring great reward, inshallah. So sorry, I have a cold. Creating the vision for marriage. Now, the thing about marriages is that, like I said earlier, they're institutions, and any institution would mean also that you're going to plan how you're going to live your life, as couples. Say, for instance, a company wants to be formed, right? They will decide what the vision of the company is, what the mission is going to be, and what the core values are going to be. But I realized that, from all the counseling I've been doing, I realized that people go into marriage with the hope that everything is going to be fine. It's just a hope that everything is going to be fine. Nobody sits down and, tries to create what the vision, is going to be. Now, if you've not done that and you're still, thinking of getting married, I would suggest that you first create a vision, both of you create a vision. It has to be something that you both incline towards. I know that most men feel so heady, especially when it comes to things like this. But, not likening Muslims to Christians, but I realized that for most organized churches, before a marriage can be conducted, one thing is sure: you have to give them a certain amount of months. Out of those months, you're going to do counseling. After the counseling, you're going to do exam for the counseling. If you pass the exam for the counseling, go ahead. If you don't pass the exam for the counseling, you go back and then you start again until they're sure you understand. Now, in Islam, we do it, but we're not there yet because we do not see seasoned counselors. If you go to the US and the UK, we have you can book for counselors, but here we scout around for counselors, especially when awards want to get married. Like I said earlier, marriage is an institution for life, and that should be your purpose. That I want to go into this for life, except of course, something really terrible happens. But then the intention is very important. Sadly, we don't treat this as such. It is not something that a lot of us do. A Muslim vision should be called from our faith, which is the bane of our existence. Now, if you want to, some people will be, daunted. How am I going to call a vision? How am I going to get a vision? What should my vision be? The Quran is there to call out your vision from, and the Hadith is also there to call out your vision from. I did a small sample vision, so it could help whoever is getting married. Even if you're in marriage, right? It's always very important that your children know that this marriage is envisioned this way. This is the mission of this marriage, and these are core values. So if they know what the core values are and they contravene some of the core values, honestly, it's actually very easy, for you to call them to order, reminding them of the core values you have shared with them. To constantly be inspired by Islamic faith, that is the first vision I coined. For instance, couple A could say, our vision is to constantly be inspired by our Islamic faith and be guided by its values, to love and to show compassion towards each other, raise exemplary children. That is a vision. Another couple could say, well, our own vision is to have a peaceful home or family life guided by Islamic faith and value, filled with respect, love, and compassion towards each other. That is for couple B. And it goes on and on and on like that. And the believers are men and women. Believers, men and women, are protectors of one another. They enjoy what is just and forbid what is evil. They observe regular prayers and practice regular charity and obey Allah and His apostle. On them will God pour His mercy, for God is exalted in power. You could also coin your vision from this, depending on what you'd agree with your spouse. Remember, your vision can always be tilted here and there, depending on what you have on ground. I would encourage all of us to try as much as possible to note what our visions are. If you're already married and you don't have a vision, try as much as possible to coin out a vision, share with your spouse. If you're about to get married, try and coin out a vision and share with your spouse. These are ways of acquiring peace within marriage. Like I said, there's no perfection in marriage. We can only try, as much as possible to make our marriage peaceful, conflict-free, share love and compassion with each other. Now, going to the marriage mission, if you coin out a vision, it is very, very important as well for you to coin out a vision, because the vision is where what do we want to be all about? What do we want to be all about in this marriage? And then your mission and core values will definitely now follow. How do you hope to actualize your vision? How do you want to see it through? Now, your vision will be now the bedrock of which you're going to coin out all your mission. Now, the sample mission I put in here is say salah together and openly make dua for each other, based on the mission, the vision that was earlier coined. Develop spiritual and professional goals and aid each other to achieve them. Support each other with positive affirmations and actions. Be honest, gentle, and considerate in our speech. Give our offsprings the best upbringing. Be cordial towards all kith and kin and mentor others. Now, it could be more than this, it could be less than this. And from time to time, of course, that's the thing about all this mission and vision. It can always be reenacted. For instance, your vision can be changed every few years, and you can embody it, you can make it more elaborate. And the same thing with your mission. Then coming to the core values. The core values of Muslims are coined from the life of Rasulullah and the Sunnah. We know that everything he was is something that we always wish to be. But unfortunately, we cannot be everything, right? But we'll try as much as possible, to be some of most of them. Some of the core values for every Muslim is charity and philanthropy, forgiveness. That is, you have to learn to forgive each other, not just within, you have to forgive each other outside, When I say outside, people around you have to learn to forgive, because these are things that we carry along into the marriage. If you're very forgiving within your marriage, it is most likely you're going to be able to forgive others as well. Honesty is, the bane of everything. If you're not honest, then, it will crash your marriage, in an instance. Tolerance, be able to tolerate other people. In Islam, if you have a guest, you have to tolerate them at most for 3 days. Meaning that you really have to be very tolerant of other people. Kindness and leniency towards each other. We can't be perfect, and that is why this comes in. We have to be lenient. We'll do wrong intentionally sometimes, and that's when Allah is ever so kind and is a Ghafur Rahim. So from this, we know that we have to be lenient with other people, even around us at work and everywhere. Kindness to animals. Now, Muslims are huge on kindness to animal, right? And of course, there's so many stories. I've been given just 40 minutes, and that's why all this has to be done sharply. Now, we're huge on kindness to animals. You cannot take care of animals, you cannot keep them. So it's very, very important that we know this. Justice, of course, is important. Fulfillment of promise. Promise your wife or your children something. Please hold on to your promise, or else your integrity drops. Decent speech, the way we speak, the kind of language we use within the house, with other people, are the kind of languages your children will also pick up. So this should be a core value. Your children will bring in different things. Your husband or your spouse to be might also bring in different things, and you should be able to caution each other. Modesty and humility is very, very important. Not to be too showy, and be humble, even if you're very, very rich. Trustworthiness is very important, and Rasulullah is known for this. Remember the story of a man, sorry, Rasulullah said that was going to enter paradise, and everybody was wondering what does he do differently. And some people even went to sleep in his house for some days to see whether he was doing something special. He wasn't doing anything special, And when they asked him, please, what do you do special? You don't even stand up for tahajjud. Why are you so special? And he says, well, the only thing I feel is special that I do is when anybody keeps anything with me, the way you give it to me, even if it's 10 years, is the way you get it back. And that is trust. And then, of course, patience. Remember Rasulullah, when somebody came to him and he said, please cancel me. And he said, do be patient. Do not get angry. Cancel me again. Do be patient and do not get angry. So it is very important that we learn to be patient and learn anger management. It is part of faith and sincerity. When you say some things, there's some people that out of want of being relevant in the society they're in or in the group they're in, they compliment a lot. If your compliment is not sincere, then your integrity drops because the person might know that you're lying, right? But of course, complimenting people is very, very important. You can look at the person from head to toe and not see anything to compliment except the color of his shirt. You could compliment that, and that is sincere. Instead of saying things you do not mean. Respect our elders in Islam and even in our culture. Respecting our elders, come at a point that a lot of us cannot push aside. If you do not respect your elders in the Yoruba culture, they will tell you that you'll not get old. And in the Islamic culture, Islam said, if you're good to a kith and kin, right, it lengthens our lives. It makes you get older because they'll keep on praying for you for the goodness you do for them. So these are some of the core values. There's so many more. And then if you're doing core values or writing out core values like this, you could, let it reflect some of the things that are deficient within your own home, for instance, or deficient within your own relationship, for instance, and so on and so on. Now, a marriage is like a house which consists of different compartments. It's just like our lives, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best of those who give similitudes. And the similitude he gives in the Quran are so numerous that even if you sit down, some of those similitudes, you could actually, look at your life and then table it and it will fit into the similitude. Now, our lives are like compartments, like departments in an organization, for instance, that are responsible for different things. And then we're surrounded by installations of prayer, trust, and commitment. Now, this trust, prayer, and commitment are very, very integral in any marriage. Because as Muslims, prayer is, according to Rasulullah, taking care of these compartments, are very, very good. Just like, any other organization, you have different compartments within your marriage. You have to have good intentions, for instance. Before going into the marriage, you have to have good intentions and reliance on Allah. You have to share fondness and admiration. You have to communicate and respect, each other in small ways and do it often and often. Maintain cordial relationship with significant people in your spouse's life, their parents, their cousins. People are very significant. Now, build love maps. Show genuine interest in the internal and external world of your partner. Know your partner's dreams, values, goals, and open-ended questions. Ask open-ended questions as much as possible. Turn to watch your partner instead of away from him. For instance, your partner corrects you. If you take to that correction, right, it means you're turning towards him, right? If you do not pay attention to the correction, it means you're turning away from him. And this, kills, the essence of marriage. The positive perspective of in marriage is very, very important. See the positive things your partners do instead of all the negatives all the time. This sentiment overrides, moments when negative things are happening, right? And if you're able to do one, two, three, like the ones I mentioned up, there's one called Goffman, he calls it the buffer irritability and an emotional distance. So it is very, very important that if you keep on giving negative vibes, right, there will be emotional distancing. It's a gradual thing until a war becomes, apparent in between the two of you. Manage conflict. Friendship is the basis for regulating conflicts. Couples who have the first three ingredients well, right, like humor, laughing over mistakes, they're able to go through conflicts very well. Also note that 69% of all conflicts are never resolved within marriage. A lot of them are swept under the carpet. I wish I could go through all this, make life dreams come true. A lot of us have dreams, and our dreams are not, well channeled, to our spouses. It's very, very important, that we do and share each other's dreams and try to, actualize it. Please, I have to take this last one. Now, the 5 love languages of Rasulullah. You have indeed, in the Messenger of Allah, a beautiful example of conduct for everyone who hopes in Allah and the final day and remembers Allah much. Now, in marriage, we have to lean towards Rasulullah in everything that he does. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has perfected his actions. And the things that he did with his wives was really things that, if we can practice day in, day out, it will make our lives better and make our marriage tend towards perfection, not to be perfect. Words of affirmation, we should say things that are positive to our wives. The bottom line is we all love positive words. So say things that are positive. Say things, I don't know what your husband likes. Is it, I love you? Is it, you look good today? All these things need to be said. And Rasulullah was huge on doing this to Aisha, to all of his wives. Sharing of gifts. Rasulullah told us, according to Abu Hurairah, who reported this riwayah, that Rasulullah said, may Allah bless him and grant him peace. Give gift and you will love one another. These I've noticed in a lot of people. When you give gift, it blossoms love. When you give gifts, it makes relationship better. When you give gifts, people think better of you. Talk less of when you do that within marriage. A lot of marriages now are sapped of all this. They don't have to be things that are significant. It could be something little. It is very important that we share gifts, acts of service. We also know that Rasulullah in his days, he does not just sit down, when he's at home. He mends his shoes, he cleans, he does a lot of things at home. And these actually makes his wives even love him far more than, they would even think possible, right? Doing things for your spouse, like household chores, fall under this category. Doing them without being asked is even better because, this is a huge love language. If, for instance, you get home and your husband has cooked, you know what that means. It would sort of, even if you had a grudge towards him before you left home, it will soften your heart. Then quality time, spending quality time with each other is very, 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 very important. We go to work each day, by and large, go to work. Saturdays, go to madrasa and so on and so on. Out of all of this, we have to create time where we put up our TV, put up the phone, put up the computer, and just spend time with each other, travel together, as a matter of fact. Another thing Rasulullah did a lot was, he held, he loves to touch his wives, and then when he passes by them, he will touch them. He will always touch them. And then, like I said, word of affirmation, is also something that is very crucial. I remember Aisha radiallahu anha, he asked Rasulullah one day, he said, how is your love to me? And he said, it is like a knot that has been tied and cannot be untied. He made her so happy. And then each time she passes by Rasulullah, all she says is, how is it not? And then he will say, it is still as tight as it was. So words of affirmation are very, very important, to let the person know that the feeling is still there. The feeling is still there. Another thing, of course, that we keep on, forgetting within marriage is that we could have issues, but the issues should be contained, right? And it should not spread into every other part of our lives. It should not spread to us not talking to each other. It should not spread to us not having intimacy. It should not spread to us not being good or sharing things with each other. And we're able to do this. What happens is that we're able to kill the conflict and then move on. Now, I want you to remember that creating a happy marriage begins with your intention. Intentionally create alone time. Intentionally, take trips together. Intentionally work on communication. Intentionally touch throughout the day. Intentionally show appreciation. Intentionally be accountable for your actions. Couples who fight often are most likely stronger than couples who do not. But it's not the fighting that makes them stronger. It's what takes place after fighting, the making up. It's coming to the realization that your relationship is more important than your differences. It involves acts of forgiveness and acceptance of one's mistakes. You fight and you learn something. You learn something new about the person. That is how it works. Relationships aren't perfect. The perfect relationships aren't real. So I just want you to take it home that as much as we try to attain perfection, we cannot attain perfect marriage. We're going to fight, we're going to make up. But the main thing is for us to learn to be together. No relationship is all sunshine, but two people can share one umbrella and survive the storm together. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you so much for the detail and the time you've
Yes.
put into this. May Allah bless you, reward you, and increase you in knowledge. So I'll just jump straight into the questions, man. So the first one is, how much do you think Nigerian cultures and traditions affect the outcome of marriages amongst Muslims, from the wedding to how the home is set up?
Well, honestly, culture plays a role in our wedding, in our marriage, and it starts from when the husband takes the wife home. Sorry, the spouse to be home. It is integral that you look at the home you're coming into. If you're not going to be comfortable, please do not compromise. Do not. Because when you marry a man, you marry him with the whole of his family. You don't marry just one man. We do not live in the Western world where you just marry the man alone and that's it. In this part of the world, you marry the man, you marry your in-laws, and you marry every other person that is attached. In fact, you marry friends. When I say you marry these people, it means that you have to be good to them. And unfortunately, sometimes, you're not in an environment where they're even willing to be good to you. So it becomes very difficult for you to survive within that kind of environment. So yeah, these are some of the key things, that you have to decide, when you're picking up your husband or your wife. If you think the home she's coming from is too volatile, too hard for you to handle, then in Islam, so long as there has been no intimacy, no sexual intercourse, please just leave and you find somebody else. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that, Ma. Before I move on to the next questions, I think people would be really interested in the slides. So how do you think we should do this? Are you happy to share your email address, and then those who want it can reach out to you? And then you can
Yes, Zainab will get you about, Zainab will give you my email address.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So I'll take a question that just came in now. Is it sufficient to refuse to go into a marriage for reasons of not loving or seeming to love the other party significantly enough? And in a situation where such choice has been made, how does one come to terms with the outcome without regrets, considering that the other party was a very good person or Muslim?
Well, I don't know, because when it comes to love, right, I look at love as being elusive. And the reason why it's elusive before marriage is that, you can think you love the person, but not until you get married, right? You might like the person intensely. You might, want the person, truly, but not until you get into marriage can you determine whether you love someone. right? In the days of Rasulullah, I mean, falling in love was not the main thing. The main thing is that look at the person, look at the lineage. You know, you talked about lineage the other time. I mean, I'll take that as lineage. Where the person is coming from. Look at the lineage and look at the person, because eventually it will give you a perfect idea of which the path of your marriage is going to go. Look at the kind of marriages they have within that family. Look at the kind of interaction they have within that family. Love is not static, right? I've seen a lot of arranged marriages in psychology. A study was done, and it was found out that arranged marriages actually last longer than one we fall in love and then we decide to marry. Because when we say we fall in love only the things we see superficially. When you do get married, new things are going to come up. And how are you going to handle those new things? I don't know, what this person, sorry, the question is all about. But mine is, don't let love be the first thing that is on your mind. Your intention, should be to please Allah, right? And I think if you have very good intentions, every other thing will follow. I believe that very strongly.
Thank you. What do you do with marriages that have stalled, no communication or love? Apparently, spouses that have grown apart.
No, honestly, these before that occurred, right? Most oftentimes there will have been, bailouts, for them to make up. But most of the counseling I did in the past, I realized that people are not willing because there's no third party to bring them together, right? For both of you, it is always very difficult to sit down and decide exactly, how you want your marriage to be after conflict, especially if it's a conflict that is really intense, right? And depending on the personality of both of you, some people have very, very strong personality, and especially the men, it is either their way or the highway. If you do not do the things the way they want, the way, if you don't do the things the way they want, then those things done, most oftentimes you get nothing out of it. So my suggestion, of course, most oftentimes is, see a counselor. So my suggestion, of course, most oftentimes is, see a counselor, a professional counselor. And from my own experience as well, seeing a counselor is not the problem. The problem is one party refusing, to go for counseling. There's always respite for every marriage. There's always a way out. There's always there's always a way out, but it has to be mutual. If you want the marriage to survive and the man wants the marriage to survive, right? Most oftentimes it will survive. However, they will be keeping together now just to keep a face. They don't want anybody to know something is happening. So you see, the marriage is there not for the two of them anymore, right? It's for other people to say that, well, they're still married. When they go to functions, they go to functions together, but they do not go in the same car. They do not arrive at the house at the same time. So for me, that is no more a marriage. If you want to be within this marriage, then you have to be very proactive. Try as much as possible to see people that can, speak with either of the spouse. If you're the husband and you want the marriage to work, look for people that can speak with your wife. If you have the wife that and you want the marriage to work, do the same. But sitting there just builds the wall higher. It gets higher and higher until it is irreparable. I remember also, if it's something that it's irreconcilable, then I do not advise divorce all the time. I always like all the parts of reconciliation to be explored, before any of this thing happens. But yeah, it is redeemable, and then it cannot be done by any other person but the two of them. They have to make the move, and of course, lastly, of course, they have to pray a lot about it.
Thank you very much, ma'am. What is the best way to resolve conflicts in marriage, and what is your take on involving family and friends?
Well, there's so many types of conflicts in marriage. They're typical conflicts, very typical ones. Why did you put your clothes there? I've told you several times, don't put your clothes there. These are conflicts that can be resolved by just looking away. Now, conflicts will arise most often times, right, if expectations are too high. if your expectations are too high on your partner, most often times there'll be conflicts. Now, that is not to say that you should reduce or dim your expectations all the time, because really it will make you unhappy. But relating your expectations most often times helps, and conflicts will be reduced if both parties just sit down. Like I said earlier, I mentioned something on, having a vision, having your mission. If these things were put in place before marriage, honestly, it reduces conflict, because, out of your core values, there should be a means of resolving conflicts. But, just like you said now, it is important that you do not involve friends and family, because, and the reason is this, some of the things you tell your friends and family, they're going to still use it against you. So it is better for you to use people that do not have any affiliation, with either one of you. And that is why um, we always suggest counseling. That is not also to say that we do not have good people within families. You really have to, keep your heads to the ground and know, those family members that are very, very upright, and then they're just, and when they're resolving such conflicts, they're true, but then they're always fun in between. And if you're going to, resolve conflicts with families, it means that the two families will come, and the things that happened between the two of you would have to be said. And that's the only thing that will be said. Other things will also be said, and everybody will see, the whole of your family just like that. Every time you come, back to the family house, you know that this person knows about my issue, this person knows about my issue. So if you're the kind of person that is very private, then I'll suggest that you shouldn't, you know. But if you do have people within your family that, that are just enough, that are that can keep their mouth shut, in quotes, about the things that you discuss with them, then yes, you can. But else, I would suggest that use counselors.
There was a question before what I'm about to read, but just because we're talking on counseling, there's a question that says, what would you say is the importance of premarital counseling? At what stage of the relationship, or how close to the wedding and ceremony do you think the premarital counseling should come in?
Well, premarital counseling should come very early. All the premarital counseling that I did came a month to, 2 weeks to, 2 months to, the maximum was 3 months to. And that is poor, because for premarital counseling, you're supposed to do it for about 6 sessions. Each session, you're supposed to take new things home to practice and come back, new things home to practice and come back, so that by the time you come for the 6th one, you sort of just understand each other, right? But this is always not the case. Now, if you're going to go into marriage, right, it is very, very important that, you don't go into marriage in a rush. If you want to go into premarital counseling, you must have the expectations, all these things you want within your marriage written out. And you must, look at between, 5 to 6 months, to give time to decide, because premarital counseling is not for you to do the counseling and go straight into wedding. No, it's for you to go there, right, be counseled, and decide whether I want to go ahead with the wedding or the marriage, or I do not want to, because a lot of things are going to come out. And if they do come out, would I continue with the marriage, with the wedding? Yes. So I would suggest that, you do it if you want to. I always beg people to do it anyway, but I mean, it's not by force. But if you do, you see the gains of doing it. I've done one for a Christian before, and I was in shock that a Christian came to me to be counseled. I said, why? Why can't you go to the church? He says, no, I just want you to do it for me. So it is very, very important, because, I mean, when we interact with each other, we think we know each other until a third party comes and asks genuine questions that would bring out a lot of things from either one of you, either the things you're not happy about. For instance, there was a marriage counseling I did, and the lady said the spouse is a bit abusive. And I said, what do you mean by abusive? He said, abusive as in abusive. He abuses me verbally. I said, why? He says, well, for instance, we're coming in here and he just abused me. I said, how? He said, I said, what? And what did you do? I said, I did nothing. And I asked him very few questions. The first question was, are you the first child? No. Are you the breadwinner? Yes. Did you send all your siblings to school? Yes. But of course, he did all those, right? And he feels that this girl is going to also come into the line of people I'm going to, take care of. So he talks to her anyhow. But of today, they're no more married. They were married for about 3 or 4 years. And, of today, they're no more married. So it's very important that, some signals are there, but we do not listen to those signals. They're warning signs. They keep blipping, beeping, beeping, and we don't ever listen to them. Some of these things we see, we take it to heart. If you're not sure of it, look for people that are very, very intelligent and ask them about one or two things. And another thing, of course, when people come to you for advice, they're not looking for advice, they're looking for accomplice. So you really can't, know exactly what they're going to do eventually. Yes.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Next question is, how do you decide on the vision and mission for couples between individuals with different levels of religious knowledge and upbringing?
Rasulullah said that we should marry for certain things. We could marry for riches, we could marry for beauty. But the most important thing is that we marry for taqwa. That is someone that truly fears Allah. Now, if the person you want to get married to truly fears Allah, the disparity in your level of knowledge of Islam will be inconsequential, right? If it's truly into wanting to learn about Islam, wanting to learn or know a lot about Allah and serve Him like He should be served, and not look down on you, right, as being the woman, or perhaps, and I'm just assuming now, that you're the woman, so you shouldn't be telling me all this. I should be the one to go and learn it. Then these are also pointers that you first of all have to fix before you go into such marriages, right? Now, a lot of us, and that's another thing, a lot of us we want trendy guys. We want guys that, I mean, you know what I mean. We want guys that when you see them, they're sharp in their dressing, they're sharp in their speech, and so on and so on. But when it comes to Islam, they're just Muslims by name and, by Friday prayers, or Muslim by name, by Salatul Subi, and by Friday prayers. And that is okay by us. And then this is us wearing hijab, some of us wearing socks, some of us not shaking. And then we let these guys woo us into wanting them. And then we expect miracle. It doesn't occur that way. It doesn't. You really have to work hard on the kind of people you pick. It is not, important that you pick people that, are sharply dressed and so on and so on. Depending on what you want, you can, find Muslims. I've seen quite a lot of Muslim men that, are well dressed, very, very intelligent, that you can, go with. That is, as far as I'm concerned, that is a pointer. But of course, you could drop mission, and if you want to do this and you feel you're going to have a bit of a problem talking to him, then it would be nice for you to do it during counseling, so that you throw it at him, before the counseling, and let him know that it might be part of the things you want to discuss, so you do not shock him. That is if you really want to go into such marriage. But like I said, level of religiosity is not what is important. See, taqwa is something that you cannot feel. You talk to some people about Allah like this, you could see they're almost crying. And by the next day, the thing you talked about, you not find them doing anything negative. You see them doing exactly what you told them. And this is the true Muslim, and that is who we're looking for, right? We're not saying you should go and look for one Hafiz. No. We're not saying you should go and look for, no. But you see, the taqwa in the heart is what you should look for. Yeah.
How do we cope as women in a case of polygyny when the love seems to be divided despite good intentions?
Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran that you will not be able to be just You'll not be able to be equitable, but you should do it as best as you can. When it comes to multiple partners in marriage, that is polygyny, just like you said, it is important for you to know that the bulk of it lies with the man. If it's going to work, it lies with him. If it's not going to work, it lies with him, right? Your job as a woman is to look at your husband as your husband. Don't look at him as someone that is being shared, because when he's with you, he's your husband. When he's with the other person, is a husband. So let that partition be there. Now, if you think it's not being equitable or being just, then that means you're looking at some things that you're not meant to be looking at. My thoughts. Except, of course, the things is doing are very apparent. If it's apparent, then it has a lot of trouble. It's going to cause a lot of rifts between the two of you. I would have loved it if you were a bit more specific, right? Because I mean, if a man has more than one wife and is able to put them in different lodgings, right? What you're talking about might not come to play. But if you live in the same lodging, it is most likely you see most of this thing or some of this thing. And how do you do it if it's not being just, openly not being just? The first thing is that you call him to order when you have your time with him. If you think talking about it is going to cause more rifts in between the two of you, then you really have to cool down, right? Like I said, I really wish you were a bit specific, because I mean, I don't know the nature of the injustice you're talking about. It would have been nice for me to know. But it is crucial for you to know that not to cause more rift, right, than on ground, because I mean, having more than one wife itself, in any relationship, it's a rift, so it is important that you try as much as possible to have sabr, to have patience, and then to learn to manage your anger. I am of the opinion that saying or communicating with your wife your husband is very, very crucial here. If you think talking with him might escalate into a conflict, you could try as much as possible to text, to message. But like I said earlier, you see, good words are very important, and if you're going to come up with something, you must come up with that allegation backed with proof, not an insinuation, because with insinuation is going to cause a lot of rifts. So whatever you're bringing forward as injustice must be backed up with enough evidence. If there's enough evidence, you can talk to him as gently as possible. So you understand? Because right now you're in a multiple marriage, so you have to be very cautious. Then, if that is not working, then you text. But as much as possible, do not involve the third party.
Yeah. So we'll close now, but before we do, could I ask you to just say a prayer for us, please?
Alhamdulillah, 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 rabbil alameen. I'm sorry I didn't pray before before starting. I was mentioned. Yes, 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 yes. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us our sins. I particularly remember, all the people that died, through this COVID. I beg Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive them, especially the Muslims, and make their graves resting places for them and grant them Jannat Firdaus. I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for spending all our lives. We're here today. Even amidst all the pandemic, we're still alive, and we're thankful to Allah. We appreciate Him, we glorify Him, we honor Him, and we're begging Him out of His infinite mercies to count us among those who will be successful both in this life and the hereafter. We beg Him to make this little lecture we did, make it impactful on me and on everybody that listened. No matter how little it is, I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make something, to make you take something out of it and make it for you on the day of Yom Kiyama. I pray for all the Muslim communities in the world that have been oppressed, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should save them from the oppressors. I pray particularly for Nigeria, Allah, please rid us of corruption and bring us good leaders. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should enrich us emotionally, physically, and financially, and count us among those whom He would exonerate on the day of Yom Kippur and grant Jannah to Firdaus. May Allah continue to increase us in knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. And for Micah, I continue to beg Allah to make it a place and a seat of knowledge for a lot of people, a lot of youngsters that that are lost. May it continue to be a place of hope for young adults. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما ربنا أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون السلام على المرسلين الحمد لله رب العالمين. Thank you very much.
Ameen. Thank you so much, Ma. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept it, and may He bless you abundantly and increase you in knowledge. Thank you so much, Ma. So for everyone that's joined us today, thank you, thank you, thank you. Also, Ma, you should look at the comments. Everyone's making dua for you, so may Allah accept it. I think it's been very insightful for everyone, so thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. Thank you.